Have you been laid off due to AI? Or do you fear that possibility in the near future? What will you to do next? Join our friend Brian as he tells how he experienced a layoff directly due to AI, dealt with that loss, and took on the challenge of finding a new passion and purpose after losing his job to artificial intelligence. Stay to the end to see how he turned this setback into a comeback. It all started with a throwaway comment during one of our meetings a few years back. Someone mentioned artificial intelligence, and I barely looked up from my screen. At the time, I figured it was just another tech fad that would go the way of MySpace and Google Glass. But as the months went on, AI kept coming up, not just in tech circles, but in healthcare, finance, you name it. And I couldn't shake the feeling that it would eventually show up at my own doorstep. When AI first made its way into my job, I was genuinely excited. I mean, who wouldn't want an assistant to handle all the tedious work? I even started calling the AI Cody my little sidekick. Cody and I became quite the duo. I'd handle the creative stuff while it churned through the data. For a while, everything felt perfect. I was more productive than ever and could finally tackle projects I'd been putting off for years. But then, Cody started getting a little too good. One day, I found it rewriting chunks of code faster than I could even spot the bugs. "Great job, Cody," I said, laughing. But deep down, a seed of unease was sprouting. Each new version of Cody learned faster, did more, and slowly started eating away at tasks I'd once considered mine. The jokes about watching your back around Cody turned into a reality check. What if artificial intelligence wasn't just here to lend a hand, but instead to completely change the playing field? Fast forward a few months, and I was seeing the writing on the wall. My role was getting phased out, bit by bit. Meetings that used to include me were now led by project managers demonstrating AI solution models. I'd hear statements like, "This new AI system can now handle X, Y, and Z tasks," and think to myself, wait a minute, isn't that my job? It became harder to brush off the anxiety, but I still convinced myself it wouldn't come to that. I was too experienced, too valuable, right? Then it happened, the dreaded layoff. I got the call to come into my manager's office, and I just knew. He couldn't even look at me as he tried to deliver the bad news. "Brian, we've decided to go full AI for this division. Your position is being eliminated," he said, adding, "It's not just you, others are being laid off," as if that would make me feel better. I just stared at him, trying to process what he'd said. My first thought? I've been outcoded by a machine. It was surreal, like I was watching myself in a bad sitcom. What do you even say to that? Thanks for the memories, but I guess it's Cody's time to shine. For a few days after, I floated through a fog of disbelief. I felt everything at once: anger, sadness, confusion, and this weird sense of betrayal. I'd been loyal, hardworking, adaptable, and here I was, replaced by a few lines of code. My routine was shattered, and I found myself spiraling. I'd catch myself mindlessly scrolling through job postings or staring blankly at the fridge at 3 a.m., wondering what I was supposed to do now. But somewhere in that haze, I started thinking, okay, so what now? I could either sit around moping, binge-watching cat videos and feeling sorry for myself, or I could do something about it. The question was, what? With no 9-to-5 tying me down, I suddenly had the freedom to explore. It was terrifying, but also kind of exciting. I dipped my toes into a bit of everything, signed up for online courses, everything from web design to learning how to bake. Spoiler, my sourdough starter was more trouble than raising a puppy. I even tried yoga for a week. Turns out, I'm not very bendy, and getting stuck in a downward dog pose is a humbling experience. But through all the experiments and failed hobbies, I realized something. I missed connecting with people, sharing ideas and telling stories. I'd always loved storytelling, whether it was pitching ideas to clients or just spinning ridiculous tales over drinks. That's when it clicked. I started a blog sharing my experience of losing my job to AI and what I was doing to bounce back. I tried to add a bit of humor to it. After all, if I couldn't laugh at myself, what else was there? And guess what? People responded. They commented, shared their own stories, and suddenly I wasn't alone anymore. It was like I'd found this hidden network of people who'd been through similar experiences, all trying to find their way in a world that felt like it was changing faster than we could keep up. Bit by bit, I built up my blog, turned it into a podcast, and started sharing more about what I was learning. My content started resonating, and before I knew it, I had an audience, a community, a tribe. Sure, it wasn't millions of followers overnight, but it was a start. And for the first time since losing my job, I felt like I had a purpose again. A purpose aligned with my goals. Building my dreams, not that of some heartless corporation. These days, I'm all in as a full-time content creator, telling stories and creating podcasts that speak to people dealing with their own career transitions. Ironically, AI apps are now some of my biggest tools for brainstorming and editing. Yeah, Cody's still hanging around, but this time it's on my terms. I'm running the show. So what did I learn from all this? Well, getting laid off wasn't the end of my career. It was a reboot, a painful one, sure, but a necessary one. If I can say one thing to anyone worried about AI taking over, it's this: don't fear the machines. Find a way to work with them. Maybe your job will change, maybe even disappear like mine did, but that doesn't mean your skills and experience are useless. I thought losing my job was a disaster, but it turned out to be the catalyst for a career I didn't even know I wanted. If you've got your own story about artificial intelligence, automation, or career pivots, we'd love to hear it. Drop a comment below and let's talk about how we can turn these setbacks into comebacks together. And hey, if this video made you smile or gave you a little hope, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe. Let's show Cody that human creativity isn't going anywhere. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.